With both teams sitting near the top of the NFC standings, the Seahawks and Buccaneers getting ready to clash in their 1976 threads, looking for a fourth win, respectively. A huge game at Lumen Field. Who's got the edge in Week 5? We're going to be breaking it all down here on Crossover Thursday. Locked On Seahawks, Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, 12s and Buck fans. It is time for a Locked On Crossover Thursday special. Locked On Seahawks, Locked On Bucs. I'm Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast. He's James Yarcho, the host of Locked On Bucs. And we are gearing up for a pivotal matchup at Lumen Field. Two 3-1 teams, the NFC South leading Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the 3-1 Seahawks, who technically are in second place, but they are tied for first place in the crowded NFC West. A special thanks to all of our listeners, whether you're out in Seattle or you're listening in from Tampa Bay. Thanks for making Locked On Bucs and Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. We're going to be deep diving into everything you need to know from this upcoming game. Injuries on both sides, particularly for Tampa Bay heading into this matchup. And speaking of matchups, a lot of Ohio State flavor in this game coming up between the Seahawks and Bucs. And we'll look at what each team has got to do to get that fourth victory in their first 5 games. All this coming your way courtesy of Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDINNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. James, it's interesting because if you remember the quote from Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. And yet, in the case of the Tampa Bay Bucs, it has been hard to get to 3-1. They have been trailing in every game in the fourth quarter, but they found a way to win almost all of those games. Did lose for the first time last week against Philadelphia. And I think it is a testament to what Baker Mayfield does, what the magic is he brings under center, because the injuries he has had, particularly on offense, around him. And unfortunately for Tampa Bay, in their white creamsicle threads this weekend, it looks like they're going to be missing at least one more key player on offense as the injuries just keep piling up.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs could as easily be 4-0 as 0-4 at this point in the year. But, you know, that's what good teams do, right? They find a way to win football games. And last week you spot the Eagles 14 points and just kind of run out of time at the end because they certainly made it a lot more interesting than people expected. But yeah, the injuries just don't ever seem to stop. We already knew that the Bucs were going to be without Kalijah Kancey. He's out for the rest of the year. He got injured in week 2, but they're without Mike Evans. They're without starting right tackle Luke Gedeke. But here are the players who, as of right now, have their status up in the air as to whether or not they're going to be playing in Seattle. Jamel Dean, Benjamin Morrison, Greg Gaines, Hassan Reddick, Bucky Irving, and Christian Izien. So they went through a walkthrough practice. Todd Bowles said that he felt like they would have more guys sitting out than actually participating had they not done the walkthrough. But Bucky Irving was seen in a walking boot and crutches, but not ruled out yet. Bowles said they're going to wait until Friday to see if he gets out of the boot. It seems borderline precautionary, but we're not really sure what the actual injury is. If I had to guess, if you go back to see that play where Bucky fumbled, even though I still don't think it was a fumble, the way his ankle bent underneath the defender, it twisted pretty awkwardly. You could be looking at a high ankle sprain. But again, we have, as of right now, no word as to what that injury is. But Benjamin Morrison missed almost all of training camp with a hamstring injury. He tweaked that. Jamel Dean playing at an all-pro level through the first 4 weeks. He's dealing with a hip/groin injury. Greg Gaines, who replaced Kalijah Kancey, he's dealing with a pec injury. It's just never ending for this Bucs team.
Yeah, a ton of injuries. And Cody Mock also is another one that you didn't mention being out for the season as well. So the offensive line's got 2 key pieces that are not going to be available. And it's funny because the Seahawks were in a somewhat similar situation only a few weeks ago. It just felt like who's going to play corner and safety for this team? They were calling guys off of the street. They were bringing players up from the practice squad, and yet they didn't seem to miss a beat when they were putting the D'Anthony Bells and Tyakatas of the world into the lineup. They continued to play at a high level. They continued to get the job done back there. And now, because of the mini buy-in, look, I'm being brutally honest here. I can't remember the last time that the Seahawks were the team coming into a game like this that had the 3 days extra rest. It was it's usually the other way around. They have that 10-day, that mini buy after that Thursday night win over the Cardinals. And Nick Emanwari, their standout rookie safety, who's been out since like the fourth play of the season opener with a high ankle sprain, it sounds like there's optimism that he could be ready. We don't know if he's playing this weekend or not, but Seattle got Julian Love and Devin Witherspoon back last week. Those guys are going to be good to go. And they've got a couple other players on the front line that were banged up. DeMarcus Lawrence, we'll see if he's ready to play in this game. He had a thigh injury exited with last Thursday, but generally speaking, this is a team that is much healthier than what they were a few weeks ago. So kind of the polar opposite from Tampa Bay. And they're riding a wave of momentum. And the game on Thursday night, everybody's going to look at the 14-point deficit that the Cardinals erased at the end of the game. And they're going to say, ooh, Seattle got lucky there, whatever. Divisional games are just crazy. And Seattle still dominated 85% of that game. The week before, just murdered the Saints, who, oh, by the way, have been extremely competitive in all three of their other games. And Seattle just ran them out of Lumen Field. It was 21-0 like 3 minutes into the game. And then the week before that, and Pittsburgh's 3-1. The only game that they have looked bad was when Seattle in the second half came back from a 7-point deficit and ended up winning by 14 and just dominated all three phases in the second half of that game. This is a team that is feeling really good about what they are doing. And honestly, Seattle should be 4-0. They should have beat San Francisco in week 1, if not for Rick Woolen not making a play in the end zone on what I called a mini Hail Mary from Brock Purdy that the tight end Jake Tongas flew in and ended up catching in front of Woolen. Seattle had a 4-0 start in front of them. They have done a lot of things to hurt themselves, and yet at the same time, they've been comfortably ahead in all three of their wins in the second half. So this is a team that I feel like is still trying to get to where they are playing at their potential. There's a lot of room for growth, and yet it does seem like they have been able to put their presence forward in all three phases for a good chunk of the season. They're just looking for more consistency in a number of aspects, but they're healthy coming into this game on a 3-game win streak, and they get to go back home, which has actually not been a good thing in the past. They had lost 7 of their previous 8 home games before they crushed the Saints. They're hoping that game gets their home mojo back, and Tampa Bay is hoping they can keep that rolling for the Seahawks where they struggle at home. But this is going to be a really fun matchup. There's no question about it. Getting to see how Tampa Bay deals with the injuries the way they have done all season. And I'm assuming that, Mike Evans, there's no way he's playing in this game either.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think the optimistic look is that you get him back against the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football 2 weeks from now. So he's going to miss the Seahawks game. He's probably going to miss the game against the 49ers next week. So that would be 3 games that he misses with that hamstring injury. And then hopefully you get him back for the Lions game. And by then you pretty much hopefully shaken all the rust off of Chris Godwin. Ibuka still firing on all cylinders, and you get that trio before a couple weeks later when you get Jalen McMillan back, and then you have all 4 of those weapons, just in time for that playoff push. But yeah, you won't see Mike Evans in this one other than in street clothes, rocking the beautiful Bucko Bruce logo there on whatever apparel he decides to wear. This game's going to be so aesthetically pleasing in these 1976 throwbacks for both squads. I'm so glad they decided to do that.
Yeah, I am too. And look, I'm on I would say I'm in the minority. I like the Seahawks old threads, but I like their current ones better. So like the people that are saying we want these full time, I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. They're good for a couple times a year, in my opinion. But now, if I was a Bucks follower, I think the creamsicle. I've always loved the creamsicles. Like I would be totally fine with making those full time. But I think that is a situation where it's really cool to see both these teams in year 50 getting to play each other and wearing these original threads. I think that we could say that is one of the key matchups to watch here. We've got Bucko Bruce going against the Kingdom Royal Blues here, but we're going to get to the real matchups coming up next, including a couple of ex-Ohio State receivers that have been giving everybody fits here in the early stages of the season. Don't go away. You're listening to Crossover Thursday here. Locked on Seahawks, Locked on Bucks. The NFL season's officially underway, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, such as how many touchdowns Cooper Kupp will score against the Bucks, building a same-game parlay with multiple prop bets from the opening week, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So you're ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Just like an athlete focuses on all those details, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather, and you can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to cover a practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the same details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Crossover Thursday, Locked On Seahawks, Locked On Bucks. I'm Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast. He's James Yarcho, host of the Locked On Bucks podcast. It's time to dive into the crucial matchups to watch. And if you're somebody that is a Michigan fan, you might want to turn away from this segment because we are going to be talking a lot, I have a feeling, about ex-Ohio State Buckeyes, in particular at the receiver position. And James, I don't know what it is about what Ohio State does there, what they put in the water, but you want to talk about a school that just knows how to develop receivers. These guys come into the league and it's like, yeah, I'm going to go for 1,000 yards as a rookie, and I'm going to do it with a blindfold on. Like, their guys coming into the league are just, they are truly receiver you. There are some other schools, LSU is an example, that kick out really, really good receivers, but I think Ohio State is in a class of their own, and we get to watch both of them go to work, and at the same time, you're hoping your defenses can find a way to get the other one slowed down a little bit in this football game.
Yeah, I mean, this is another week, another time that Emeka Egbuka is going up against a former teammate. He's already faced C.J. Stroud. He's faced Garrett Wilson. Now he gets JSN. Later in the year, he gets Marvin Harrison Jr. So lots of reunions. But the big matchup that I'm watching for the Bucs offense is Emeka Egbuka against my guy, Devin Witherspoon. Now, your viewers can't see it because of the way that our screens are, but I got a Block I Illinois letter over my shoulder here. I am an Illinois guy. So we have a good old-fashioned Big Ten matchup there. With Evan still out, Egbuka is going to be the wide receiver one again this week. And now with one game under his belt, Chris Godwin, he's in line to be a little bit more effective than he was last week against the Eagles. He had gone something like, I think it was 354 days since the last time he was on a football field when he played against the Eagles. So he's going to start to get into his groove a little bit. But Emeka Egbuka leading all rookies in yards and is among the top receivers in the NFL in touchdown receptions. He's tied for third behind Amon-Ra St. Brown and Rome Odunze. But with Bucky Irving in question, although Rachaad White's best career game came against Seattle back when Dave Canales was there, he said that was one of the reasons that he was so intrigued by that offensive coordinator opening. This offense is going to have to run through Egbuka and his playmaking ability. So, I'm assuming that Devin Witherspoon is going to be the one that is going to be on him the majority of the game. But Egbuka is going to be hyped up. His mom got a block of tickets for friends and family, and they'll be there. Emeka said that the condition was they had to wear Bucs gear. They had to be cheering for the Bucs in order for them to get tickets from his mom. So he's going to want to show out, near his hometown. And something else that, there's going to be a lot of Bucs fans in that stadium, which is going to sound odd, there's a fan group in Tampa that chooses 2 road games every year to travel to. They're going to Seattle. They have an entire block of tickets for this game as well, in addition to Ibuka's mom. So there's going to be a lot of Bucs fans there, and Ibuka is going to want to have probably the best game of his season. But Devin Witherspoon, he poses some problems.
Yeah, and they're going to need Spoon to play like the typical Spoon, which he didn't necessarily do on Thursday Night Football. Though I will say, I think he played better than the numbers indicated. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s touchdown catch was phenomenal. It was really good coverage by Witherspoon, just a better play by Harrison. He had a sack in the game, and his ability to do all those things near the line of scrimmage, Ibuka being such a weapon both inside and out, Witherspoon is going to get his reps against him. I expect Josh Jobe is going to get some reps against him as well. And Rick Woolen, will the good Rick Woolen show up, or will the one that doesn't finish plays show up? That is going to be a big storyline in that matchup going against Ibuka, because if you are not finishing plays, Ibuka is going to. And so they need all of their hands on deck from that standpoint. And, I look at it offensively. I can mention Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I'm hoping that Jamel Dean gets to play in this game, because you want best against best. That's obviously going to be the number one target for Sam Darnold. He's going to look to get the football to him. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who your receivers are. It doesn't matter who your running backs are when you're going against Tampa Bay. Vita Vea always scares me, especially coming back to his old stomping grounds in the Pacific Northwest. And this is a game that is really going to be maybe the biggest litmus test that we've had for this young offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks to this point, because Gray Zabel, he's had his moments. He's also looked like a rookie at certain times too. Jalen Sundell, first-year starter at center, he's barely 300 pounds. I think he has to eat a couple Twinkies before every game to get above that on the scales. He is a smaller center. Right guard Anthony Bradford, he's 330, but he has had a very up and down start to the season as well. They haven't gotten that big step from him. They've been better than last year, but they're going against a guy who has absolutely murdered Seattle in the past in Vita Vea. He has taken over games both as a rusher and as a run defender. Seattle's got to be able to run the football, and they're not going to be doing it if Vita Vea is destroying every single play. So that is a matchup that concerns me a lot. I think Seattle can get some things going with their passing game, and I think the tight ends can get involved as well. But from a concern standpoint, Vita Vea always is a player that strikes fear in me as far as game planning goes, just especially because Seattle has just not had a good offensive line chronically. They have gotten better this year. I think they are trending in the right direction, but this is really going to be a game where they're going to be challenged unlike any other point they've had this year. Held up fairly well against Cam Hayward earlier this year, but Vita Vea with his size and just his wrecking ball capabilities, that is a matchup that I am going to be watching extremely close and just hoping Seattle can find a way to make it that he is not just obliterating their game plan like he's done in previous games, including the one in Germany. He completely wrecked that game plan on offense for the Seahawks. They have to find a way to try to mitigate that. He's going to make his plays, but if they can just get him contained a little bit so they can run the football some, then I think that they will be in a lot better shape. If they can't get him blocked, that might completely destroy this offense, and he has a history of doing that to the Seahawks. So that is always going to be matchup number one that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and Vita kind of took it upon himself last week against the Eagles. No Kalijah Kancey next to him. Hassan Reddick goes down to injury. He said, all right, fine, I'll go back there and I'll sack Jalen Hurts twice. So, and of course, they held Saquon Barkley in check, as Todd Bowles' defenses tend to do. So, yeah, Vita's going to play a massive, massive role in this game. For the Bucs defense outside of Vita Vea, you didn't want to talk Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I will. You got to stop the guy. So we're not sure about Jamel Dean or Benjamin Morrison. So slowing down JSN is going to be a difficult task for the Bucs defense. He has been one of the most impressive receivers in the league through the first month. Zion McCollum, he just got that extension, but he's had kind of an up and down season so far. He's made some great plays, but he's also made some boneheaded mistakes. Before going down to this injury, Jamel Dean was playing the best I have ever seen him play. Maybe because he's in a contract year, maybe because they drafted Benjamin Morrison in the second round and he sees the writing on the wall. But, in relief, Morrison stepped in for him. when he went down to injury, and he did a phenomenal job against A.J. Brown. He played some limited snaps the previous 2 weeks and didn't give up a reception to Nico Collins, did a really great job against Garrett Wilson. So now all of a sudden, what are you going to do when you're facing JSN? The Bucs run defense is extremely stout. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, they're going to have their hands full. This is a top 5 rushing defense. So if the secondary can find a way to eliminate JSN from the equation and force Darnold to look somewhere else to move the ball, that's when Bulls defense will really be able to take off and make some big plays.
Yeah, look, I think this is one of those instances. I don't go this direction a lot, but I do think that this is one of those games where you got to look at QB versus head coach, because I think Sam Darnold and what Todd Bowles loves to do and just sending guys from all over the place, the aggressive nature that he brings to the equation. Like, Sam Darnold got a little bit of a taste of that this last week, because Arizona kind of runs a similar defense. They send guys from all over the place. They are very aggressive, and they got to him 4 times for sacks. He had been sacked 3 times total in the first 3 games. So I'm looking at Sam Darnold. Is he going to be able to, with his offensive line, the communication standpoint, is he going to be able to figure out where guys are coming from, get the football out quickly, as he's done well all year? And if he's able to do that, you can put more strain on a secondary that's banged up. And so I'm looking at that chess match between quarterback and aggressive defensive guru, that in Todd Bowles. And I think that is one to watch very closely in this game as well. When we come back, Crossover Thursday is going to continue, and we're going to be looking at keys to victory, what these two teams have got to do to get win number 4. And we'll have some predictions, maybe not scores necessarily, but we'll be diving into some predictions in this game and looking at FanDuel's line, the spread, all that coming up next here on Crossover Thursday. Locked On Seahawks, Locked On Bucs. The NFL is back in action. Honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets, it can be a hassle, whether it's login screens, prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pull up Game Time in just a couple taps. I get amazing deals. I'm talking your favorite NFL games as low as $100. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying, and they offer zone deals as well. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than the other ways I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. Welcome back to Crossover Thursday. Locked On Seahawks, Locked On Bucs. I'm Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks. He's James Yarcho, Locked On Bucs. We've got a pivotal NFC matchup that, look, I know it's week 5, but this is the kind of game at this early point of the season that is carrying some playoff implications in seeding, because you're talking about 2 teams, Seattle and Tampa Bay, that are 3-1. Tampa Bay's atop their division. The Seahawks are tied for first place in the NFC West, but this could be a game, and let's say both these teams are at the top of their division at the end of the season, and they have the same record. This game is going to dictate who gets the higher seed, and what if they're competing for the top 2 seeds? I don't think that it's probably going to happen, but who knows? Crazier things have happened, but this is a game that has a lot of weight for a week 5 matchup with 2 playoff hopefuls, 2 teams that are near the top of the standings in the conference. Tampa Bay, as you mentioned, James, they're banged up, particularly in the offensive side of the football. So what's your recipe for Todd Bowles' squad to go cross-country, about as far of a trip as you can have, only Miami being a further one, Jacksonville, I guess, as well. This is one of the furthest trips you can make in the continental United States in the NFL. What do the Bucs have to do to go to Seattle and get that 4th win?
Offensively, you have to find a way to keep the defense honest and establish the run, potentially without Bucky Irving. Now, I feel like I say this every single week, but it's so crucial to what the Bucs are able to do on offense. They're on a pretty ridiculous streak right now. I think it's like 15 or 16 games in a row where the Bucs have rushed for 100 yards as a team and not allowed the opposing team to rush for 100 yards. So Rashad can get the job done. You're also going to see Sean Tucker. You're possibly going to see the regular season debut of rookie running back Josh Williams out of LSU. So that's where the Bucs have to be able to show that they can gain yards, in this facet of the game. That's going to open up play action. That's when Baker is at his best and he can start to take his shots to Ibuka, to Godwin. Sterling Shepard has been a huge part of the passing game early on in the absence of some of these other receivers. But it all starts with Rashad being able to play the way we've seen him play through the first month. Just now, he has the chance for a lot more opportunity. Then defensively, you have to send the pressure after Sam Darnold. Bowles is one of the best at drawing up those pressures that come from all over the place. But if he's without Dean, Morrison, Izzian, and Reddick, it's going to be tougher. But Darnold is a different quarterback this season when he's getting blitz. His completion percentage drops almost 20 points from 76.1 down to 57.6% when he's facing a blitz. Both of his interceptions have come when he was being blitzed, and he's only been blitzed on 35 of his dropbacks this year. But through 4 weeks, the data is there. He is going to be far less accurate, and he's prone to some mistakes when you're sending those extra guys. Levante David, Servassier Dennis, Antoine Winfield Jr., Tyke Smith, they've all had a lot of success as blitzers this season. So I would expect Bowles to send them early and often and really try to set the tone for the game.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it from an offensive standpoint for the Seahawks. The biggest issue they have had with consistency in the run game, they've had explosives the last few games. I mean, they're getting some big runs. Ken Walker had 3 runs of 19 yards or more against Arizona. And Arizona came in with one of the better run defenses in the NFL, and Seattle was able to find success. But the issue that is still hurting them, and I think it is limiting their effectiveness over the course of a game, they're getting behind the sticks too often. They're taking too many negative plays. And so the onus falls on the offensive line. You've got to win off the snap more consistently. Now, are they going to be able to do that against Tampa Bay? To me, that is going to be crucial because I think, especially with some of the injuries the Bucs are dealing with, if you can get some one-on-ones at the second level for Ken Walker III and Zach Charbonnet, then I'm confident that Seattle's going to be able to get some chunk plays mixed in there, especially if they have a well-timed play that they're able to execute against a blitz and there's not as many guys in the back end. There's some things that could work out for Seattle, but they're going to have to find a way to prevent the leakage that has hurt them early on. No team has had more runs of 0 yards or negative runs than the Seahawks have had to this point, and it's put them behind the sticks, and Sam Darnold's made up for it a lot of the time. But they have got to eliminate those as much as they can this week. And that also falls on Ken Walker. Like, if you don't have anything in front of you, just put your shoulder pads down and take the -1 or the 0 instead of trying to become a hero and take a -5 like he's done several times this year. You can't afford to do that against this Bucs defense and then getting second and third and really long and then let Todd Bowles cook up his blitzes and his exotic pressures. You can't let that happen, and then that puts way more strain on your communication from your offensive line. So I'm looking at those early down plays in particular. Eliminate those negatives in the run game, and even if you're only getting a yard or two, that's still a positive play. You're still getting the chains moving forward a little bit. Eliminate those negative plays. I think if they're able to do that, it's going to help set things up more for the passing game, and they can't afford in this game to get behind the sticks a bunch of times, as they've done at several occasions this season. And defensively, I'm going to be just countering what you mentioned there with the run game. Like, I'm putting everything in Baker Mayfield's court with the injuries they've got on the offensive line, at the receiver position. Seattle, Ernest Jones said it a couple weeks ago. You want to run on us? Good luck. They have been one of the better run defenses in the NFL. They are going to be coming out looking to shut down Tampa's run game and then put everything in Baker Mayfield's court. And then Mike McDonald can start unleashing his front four. They haven't had to blitz very much because, let's face it, Leonard Williams, he's licking his chops going to this game. Hey, Cody Mott's out. They've got some injuries. I'm going to take advantage of this. Jaron Reed and Byron Murphy II is having a breakout sophomore season. Those guys up front, they don't have to send guys on blitzes. I think Mike McDonald, though, gets a trigger finger some in this game. And I think Devin Witherspoon, if Nick Eamon-Warry's back, he's going to mix some of those in. But you shut down the run game, or at least make it that it is not a big part of the offense, and then eliminate some of the effectiveness and play action and let your front four go to work against an offensive line that's got some injuries. I think the Seahawks can have a significant advantage there, and it can work in their favor with a very healthy secondary making plays on the football as well.
Yeah, I do have to say it's probably like I love watching Kenneth Walker play football. I absolutely love it. But it's because I don't have an emotional investment in him. So I love watching him try to make magic happen. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I would imagine that for Seahawks fans, having that emotional investment and seeing him do that repeatedly makes you want to pull your hair out. I love watching him. I think he's a lot of fun. But yeah, I certainly am concerned about the Seattle front four, what they're going to be able to do. Charlie Heck got worked last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Not sure if they're going to have Luke Haggard at right guard or if Michael Jordan is on the mend and he'll be able to return. He filled in the first couple of weeks over at left guard. So still not sure exactly how the right side of the line is going to pan out, but Charlie Heck has had some ups and downs there at right tackle in place of Luke Gedeke.
Yeah, Seattle's got Uchenna Nwosu rolling now, finally healthy, 2 sacks last week. Him and boy Maffe's been great. He just hasn't had the sack numbers come to fruition yet. But Seattle's going to be looking to get those guys pinning the ears back a little bit and getting after Baker Mayfield as well. So this really feels like a game. Two teams that have quite a few differences. Like Seattle's played a lot of teams that were similar. This feels like a game where there really are some clear differences, and it's going to be interesting who's able to play their game in this one and make it work. And so with that being said, I saved my game predictions for our Friday episode. But with that being said, what are your thoughts going into this matchup? How are you feeling about Tampa Bay with the injuries, but the fact that this team's been able to overcome them to this point? How are you feeling with Tampa Bay making this trip to Seattle and trying to get that 4th victory?
I think this is a game that they can win. I just think it's going to boil down to how much of the secondary is injured. If you're having to, move Jacob Parrish to the outside and then you're bringing Tyke Smith down from safety to nickel corner and you're having to start Kayvon Merriweather. They just signed Sebastian Castro off of the Steelers practice squad at the safety position. So it really depends on how they're shuffling all of this around. If Izien is able to go or if Jamel Dean or Benjamin Morrison are able to go, I think that changes the landscape of the defense and really helps the Bucs in this matchup. So as of right now, kind of the same as last week. I'm leaning Seahawks because of the injuries, but I always save my my final predictions after the Friday injury report and when I do that show. But fun little factoid, shout out to my guy Evan Klosky of 10 Tampa Bay. Todd Bowles is the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the first 4 weeks of the season, his record is 11-5. His record over the course of the second 4 weeks of the season, 2-10. This is when the Bucs typically hit their lull and start losing, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, 3 in a row. So it'll be interesting to see if they can buck that trend in this game.
Yeah, our friends over at FanDuel, they have the Seahawks with the spread here at the 3-point advantage here. I think this is going to be a game that is very close. So I don't know if Seattle can cover that or not. Well, we shall see. I can see this being one of those crazy games where a team goes for 2 at some point and ends up being a 1 or 2 point win for one or the other team. As a result, I could see some craziness happening here. But the Seahawks 3-point favorites going into this game at Lumen Field. We can expect a dogfight to well-coached teams, to aggressive teams, and 2 of the best teams record-wise in the NFC. This should be a really fun, get your popcorn ready caliber matchup for Week 5. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow James at @JYarcho_Bucks. And make sure to watch the Friday shows, Locked On Seahawks, Locked On Bucks, as we continue to dive into this matchup and the final injury reports, particularly for Tampa Bay, see where things stand going into this Week 5 battle at Lumen Field. Thanks for listening in and enjoy the games this week.